Hello everyone, hello VC. As you can see in the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite live albums of all time. And I do want to say that this is, as far as talking about the albums, I'm probably going to go a bit more long form than I do when I'm showing new editions, because I'm sort of trying to rattle through those. And I want to make sure I have time to really talk about these. I might split this up into a couple videos if this goes long. And I'm just sort of inspired by other VC members I've seen that have talked about their favorite live albums. These are the ones that I just happen to own, with a few caveats. I've got some representatives here for certain artists, and I thought that this is no better time to wear my very precious REM Lighting Company shirt from the Monster Tour. Let's get into this. My favorite live album of all time, I don't own a copy of. It is Thelonious Monk's Mysterioso. I've got Palo Alto. I had to mention Mysterioso, so I wanted to make sure there was a representative here from Monk. I'm showing Palo Alto because this is easily my favorite album that I heard in 2020. This is a really important album. If you're into Monk, you've probably heard people talk about this. A long lost recording of a show that a kid organized on sort of short notice, and Monk showed up. Yeah, so I'm not going to go too much into Palo Alto. When I get a copy of Mysterioso, I'll probably just do a whole video about it. It's one of my absolute favorite pieces of music ever released. Also, another representative here, another one of those just life-changing records for me is United States Live by Laurie Anderson. And I've had a few opportunities to buy United States Live, but the box is a little finicky. So the representative here for Laurie is going to be Home of the Brave. This is a soundtrack album, but I'm pretty sure most of this was recorded live. I'm not over the moon about Home of the Brave, but I wanted a Laurie representative here because United States Live means so much to me. It's long, but it's worth it. If you haven't taken the trip to United States Live, it's about 3.5 hours long. It's over 5 discs, but it's wonderful. It's life-changing. So here's Home of the Brave. Check this one out if you haven't, but I'd jump to United States Live. Next up, this is in the ones that I own proper, so I guess that begins here. No more representatives. Viva Terlingua by Jerry Jeff Walker. This is probably the go-to for Jerry Jeff fans, and it makes sense. I think it's his best material. I'm a big fan of Jerry Jeff. He's sort of one of my country music heroes. You know, one of those people like Graham Parsons or the Byrds. Well, I guess Graham was in the Byrds, but one of those country artists that you hear for the first time and you sort of realize, you know, what country music can be. Because especially nowadays, I think a lot of people are growing up, you know, under the impression that country music is sort of something different, and I'm not here to dog on pop country. I grew up with pop country. But hearing music like this, especially in this live format, it showed me that country music could be incredibly personal, and kind of weird. You know, the weird side of country music really kind of evaded me, and finding this album was just it was really important. This is just an essential piece of music, especially by Jerry Jeff. Jerry Jeff is just for me, he's one of the greatest outlaws to ever do it. I think some other contenders as far as studio albums go, I think people really like Ridin' High a lot. It's got Pissin' in the Wind on it, which is one of the best country songs ever recorded. But yeah, Viva Terlingua. Live in Lukenbach, Texas. I think this was released in 76. 73. Okay. Yeah, and just insane lineup on here. Robert Livingston on bass. Gary P. Nunn. London Homesick Blues. What a song. Little Bird, Sangria Wine, Desperados. Yeah, this is essential. Definitely earns its place among my favorite live albums ever. Viva Terralingua, Jerry Jeff Walker. This is a more recent live album that really sort of took me a while to connect with. It is Nicole Mitchell's Mandorla Awakening to Emerging Worlds. This is a double live released in 2017, I think, on FPE Records for practically everyone. It's what my man Derek Higgins is signed to. He just put out a new album on FPE. It's really good. You should listen to it. You should also listen to this, though. This, I didn't really know what to make of this album. But I guess the best way to describe it is if you listen to this and somebody told you that it was a long-lost Sun Ra live album, you'd probably believe them. And that's not to say that this is derivative at all. It's absolutely not derivative. What Nicole puts together on this, it really captures that sort of just ascended mystical quality to what Sun Ra could do on a lot of his material. And it's in a modern format. It's just excellent. I guess you'd call it free jazz, avant-garde jazz. It's not the most challenging in a sonic sense, but it's something challenging that it definitely rewards repeated listens. And like I said, I didn't connect with it at first, but repeated listens definitely just set this as one of the best live records I've ever heard. Especially to have come out in the past few years. It's up there with like Code Girl, Mary Hallison's Code Girl. I'm just making noise up there. Sorry about that. Nicole Mitchell, Mandorla Awakening 2. If Mysterioso is my favorite live album of all time, this is probably my second favorite live album of all time. And if you know me, you probably knew this was going to pop up here. Live Dead. What an album. This is, I think Robert Christgau said it, this is the greatest live rock improvisation ever recorded for rock music. And there's a few contenders, maybe even some in this stack that I'm going to show. But for my money, this is the greatest thing the Dead ever released. And just, it's just unbelievable. Dark Star, perhaps the definitive version of Dark Star that they ever released. Unless you bought the single, which is really hard to find. This is the first place you could ever get Dark Star. And it's a very important, concert piece for the Dead. It's amazing. Saint Stephen Into the 11, side 2, it's perfect. It's a, I mean, really, when has there been a better side in the history of live rock music? Again, there's some other contenders, but personally, for my money, this is my favorite live rock album of all time. This is where I got the Dead thing, and that's something that I definitely understand if people don't connect with this music. I know a few people. I have some friends that can't stand the Dead, and I understand. But again, it's just the ascended music. It's really something else. Let's see, what do you have here? Curtis Live. I've shown this before as well when I got it from Yellow Racket. I only recently got a copy of this, I'd say in the past year and a half, but I've known this album for forever. Taking a trek through the Curtis Mayfield discography, it's interesting. because most of it is really great. There's some like soundtrack missteps here and there. But I would say that his first two albums and this live album are, to me, what the Curtis Mayfield thing is. You know, the power of Curtis's music. And you can really speak to that. The man was just an unmatched guitar player, songwriter, for all of the years that he had made music. You know, even back before this. God, I can't remember the name of the band. This is really embarrassing. The Impressions? But it's you know, it's where People Get Ready came from and stuff. But this to me is the Curtis Mayfield thing. Stretched out 2 discs of live material, all killer, no filler. Just fantastic. It's politically charged. It's very poignant. And it's excellent. I mean, again, Curtis, one of the greatest to ever do it. And when I say this does sort of like exemplify that, please don't let that deter you from listening to some of the other stuff. Back to the World, that's later in the 70s. Back to the World, I would say, is on par with stuff like Superfly, which is probably what most people know. And the debut, one of the greatest debut albums of all time. Yeah, Curtis Live, just outstanding. Renaissance, live at Carnegie Hall, sort of changing up the pace a little bit. I'm a prog rocker at heart. That's sort of where I began, in high school. And the thing that I like about prog live albums is it's one or the other. It's either going to be, you either get a Space Ritual by Hawkwind, where it turns out it is this unkempt, punkish sounding amalgam of sounds, or you get an album like Genesis Live, or in this case, Renaissance Live at Carnegie Hall, where it does what it says on the tin. It is the band, they are live, they are playing the songs. Which sounds like it could be a bit boring for some people, but as far as a collection of these tracks goes, it's amazing to hear Annie Haslam do her vocal style live, because it's on point. It never sort of takes a trek into like rawness. You know, you would think that a voice like Annie Haslam's is sort of hard to keep up live. It definitely sounds like it might be tough on the vocal cords, but she just hits it. It's perfect. It's Renaissance at a mirror sheen, playing just like a machine, in the best possible way. And it's got all that you could want on here. It's got an amazing 10-minute version of Mother Russia, the whole Scheherazade suite, the whole Ashes Are Burning suite, prologue. The prologue. That's such a prog album thing to have, where your live album has a damn prologue. But it makes sense, and it works. I think Renaissance is a band that's sort of missed by newer prog fans, because it's not on the weirder side. And I understand people my age, who were nowhere near being alive when this music came out. The weirder side of prog, especially for terminally online people, you know, why would you listen to 2 discs of this when you can listen to 2 discs of the Soft Machine? But I think this music is great. The songwriting, it's very poppy. Yeah, I'm rambling a little here, but yeah, Renaissance, live at Carnegie Hall, just fantastic live album. This is a very formative record. This was burned to CD for me by my Uncle John. God, I was 12 years old, I think, and it was always sort of mythical to me. And you'll know what it is when I say the band. But UFO, when I found UFO, I was drawn to the early stuff. I thought it was, the way people described it was very strange. You know, sort of like the introduction of like what space rock is, but like space themed. You know, it's it's not space rock just in sound. It's about space, which I thought was kind of crazy. And I knew metal fans were really into the later stuff, like Phenomena, the one Forset, I think, that has Genesis Peorage from Bob and Gristle on the cover. But the one that everyone talks about, I gotta go with the masses. Strangers in the Night is unbelievably good. I've come around on hard rock in the past few years. And it's music like this from my childhood, I think, that had me sort of revisit the genre. And when I thought of it, it's because of records like this. This is so good. It's so sharp. It's sharp as a knife. It's cutting music. It's heavy. The performances on this, you know, Michael Schenker. Look at these guys. This is 77, I think. Michael Schenker, just an outstanding guitarist. The whole band. Phil Moog on vocals, Andy Parker on drums. The UFO, this is just, it's fun. It's, you know, rock bottom, 10-minute rock bottom. How do you not love it? Yeah. I could go on and on about this album, but if you know UFO, you probably know them because of either this album or those other terminally odd space albums, the early ones, which are very good. If you've sort of explored the heavy metal and hard rock side of UFO and you want to hear them in a really different context, you should check out those albums. If you haven't heard UFO at all, listen to this album. It's as good as they say it is. You know I had to have Miles in here. I'm a worshiper. Agharda. I looked at him hard. I looked on the shelf at a few things. I looked at Live Evil. I even thought about the recent Miles in Tokyo. Because hearing Sam Rivers in that context, it justified us having to wait to get in the United States for so long. That's a really magical Miles live album to hear. But I gotta go with Agharda. It's like everyone describes it. It's like if Hendrix made avant-garde jazz. You know, that's just the best way to explain it. In 1974. Yeah, this came out in 76. It was recorded in 74, I think, because Miles had retired by this point. Yeah, just obscenely weird jams, you know. Prelude parts 1 and 2. You know, you've got songs on here. One of the greatest versions of theme from Jack Johnson you'll ever hear. And that's saying a lot because I think the original version on the Jack Johnson album is one of my favorite jazz songs of all time. And the version on here, it does it so much justice. It transforms a lot of these songs as we know them on the records, especially tracks like Maisha, which came from Get Up With It. Yeah. But going back to Prelude Parts 1 and 2 and Interlude, it's formless. It's Miles making formless music that just sort of like coalesces into a piece. You know, and it's all also a part of his band. You know, I talk about this like it's Miles singularly, but you know, everyone on here, Mitume is just a legend. Michael Henderson, Reggie Lucas on guitar. Reggie Lucas makes so much of what makes this album amazing. And obviously, you can't leave out Teo Macero, who, you know, it's easy to give Miles a lot of the credit, deservedly. But the fact that Teo could take this impenetrable music that Miles had created, on albums like In a Silent Way, things that people just hadn't heard before in jazz, and assemble them into something that's not fragmented. It all works. I'm rambling, but yeah, Agharda, by Miles. That's my choice for his best live album. Don't stay away from the others though. The Basement Sessions with John. I think that's what it's called. Live at the Cellar Door. It's a box set. It's when John McLaughlin was playing with Miles. It's when Keith Jarrett was playing with Miles. One of the only times I think Keith Jarrett ever went electric. And apparently he was really unhappy with it or something. Those are all good choices. There's so many. Take a dive. Just Google Miles Davis live albums. You will have records until you die to listen to. Jimmy Lyons, Push Pull. Jimmy Lyons, I don't really know where to start to sort of articulate how important Jimmy Lyons is to me as a jazz artist. He's up there with Ornette Coleman and Monk, I think, for me. And I think I can single-handedly say Ornette Coleman is probably my favorite musical artist of all time. Jimmy's up there. And the thing about Jimmy that hooked me is, of course, I heard him with Cecil Taylor first. I think where a lot of people did, because unit structures is a really big deal to a lot of jazz fans. It's a really big deal to me. It's somewhere around here. But it was this one, Conquistador, that I heard Jimmy on, and it really just like something clicked, and I had to find all the Jimmy stuff that I could hear. There's so many good choices for live albums by Jimmy Lyons. Sadly, they're really hard to find. They were only released in Europe on labels like Soul Note and Black Saint. Burnt Offering with Andrew Surreal from 1990. It's up there with this one. I don't know if I like it quite as much, but that's a great one. But yeah, let's talk about Push Pull. Push Pull came into my life really in a very serendipitous way, because you can't stream this album. I think it's on YouTube, but it has notoriously poor sound quality. It's what a lot of people dog this album for. And I think I can just see past it because I love the music so much. But the thing about this album is that I bought it never having heard it before. It's on Hat Hut. I didn't have any records on Hat Hut. I'm a big Joe McPhee fan who recorded a lot of stuff on Hat Hut. So I was like, I want that. I need it. And it was at a very good price for what this album usually goes for, because it was not released in the US. So it's hard to get here. But I got this copy, and I was blown away. It is 3 discs of live material, and it is searing. It is like some of the most intense free jazz that you'll ever hear. And if anything, I think the sound quality sort of works to its favor. It's a larger band, I'm pretty sure, if I remember. No, okay, no, it's just a 5-piece. It sounds like a goddamn orchestra. It's like Phil Spector levels of things coming at you, of sounds. Some will say it sounds tinny, and it makes it hard to lose everything in that. I think it just gives it this metallic, like, sharp edge to all of the music. It's it's just outstanding. It's a really, really magical live album. I wish it was easier to get a hold of. I think there's a CD pressing of it that you can get that's not too expensive. But yeah, track this down and listen to it. You know, I think I'm confident in saying it's my favorite thing that Jimmy's ever done. Even bearing in mind Cecil Taylor material. You know, Conquistador. Of course, I love. The Cecil Taylor Unit albums are great. Jimmy's on some of the Cecil in Berlin '89 stuff, but that stuff is becoming impossible to track down due to pricing and scalpers. You know, jazz is kind of a money pit right now, which is a little frustrating for me as a collector. But yeah, check this out any way you can. Check out any of the stuff that Jimmy did with Cecil Taylor. You cannot go wrong. Okay, we are nearing the end here, and I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat here with this one. I don't have Fillmore East. I don't own a copy of Fillmore East. And I adore Fillmore East. I think I could also say it's one of my favorite live albums of all time. But for my money, I think the format of this album, it doesn't set it ahead, but it does that Allman Brothers thing for me, you know, like I said with Curtis Mayfield. There's an Allman Brothers thing that just, it comes when the music, all of these odd genres that they're pulling from, at one point they just form together into this mass that's, you know, it's hard to describe. You know, a lot of people compare it to jazz rock. A lot of people call it jazz rock. But this, and it's because I'm a Georgia native. I'm biased. These guys are the pride of Georgia, the pride of Macon. I don't live in Macon, but you can't swing a fucking dead cat in Macon without something about Capricorn and the Allman Brothers. And it's albums like this that help you understand it. Now, this is cheating because there's a studio disc in here, or at least there's a studio disc's worth of material. But I think the choice that they made after Dwayne died, Eat a Peach dedicated to a brother, that's a Dwayne quote, is they made sure as how that before their sound sort of transformed into what it became on Brothers and Sisters, that they said, you know, Dwayne was what made this what it is, you know, and it's not just Dwayne. I think a big player in that, I think, is J-Mo, the second drummer, alongside Butch Trucks in the Allman Brothers. I'm a big Butch Trucks fan. I'm a bigger J-Mo fan, though. And I think it's the fusion stuff that he did after the Allman Brothers that sort of helped me, like, come to understand that. But the percussion used definitely helps create this sort of magical space that the Allman Brothers inhabit on Mountain Jam. I talked too long. I didn't say even what the live part of this is. The live part of this is Mountain Jam. I'm pretty sure it came from the Fillmore East shows. So yeah, this is cheating. I could just say the deluxe edition of Fillmore East is the greatest live album of all time. That's a little too easy, and there's such a value and usefulness to what Eat a Peach really is in the Allman Brothers lineage, is they just made sure you knew with Mountain Jam what the Allman Brothers thing really was. And I can't really explain it. This is the album that sort of inspired me to make this video. Because I was thinking like, oh, I don't own Fillmore East, and you know, Fillmore East is such an important album. But it's just you know, it's sort of crazy. I love the studio disc, but you know what Mountain Jam does for Dwayne, and Dickie, and J-Mo, and Greg. I think it's important. I think it's real important. I love this album a lot. All right, I did this shit for a half hour. If you made it here to this point, thank you for watching. I know I don't really have many viewers, so this is just sort of an experiment in, you know, more long form content. And I just, like, want to make sure that I'm sort of emphasizing the connection I have to this music. Because I can be a material person a lot of times when it comes to records. Because there's some things that I just think it's cool to have, like this, you know, the music on this album to me, you know, it changed my life, but this record I'm holding, it's, you know, it's irreplaceable, and, you know, some of that can be lost because of the value of these things. You know, records can be a money pit, but yeah, I just want to, you know, I like emphasizing the connection that sort of led me to why all of this is sitting here, why I have put thousands of dollars into some cardboard and plastic. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really enjoyed making this video. It made me really happy. Tell me about some of your favorite live albums, please. I'm always down to hear people talk about stuff like that. So thank you, VC, from the bottom of my heart. Also, get well, Matt. Get well, Matt Sands. I talk about him in every video, but prayers out for my homeboy. He's going through it right now. Okay, for real. Goodbye, everyone.